Okay, good afternoon, everybody that's joined us. We're still waiting for a few others to join us. My name is Gary Parker. I'm the Managing Director of CNT Associates, and I'm going to be doing a presentation shortly on funding for businesses and social enterprises. And we've also got two other speakers today. The first is Steve Arnold from United Technologies, who is going to give you some information about developing a small business. Steve will tell you his story, which is an impressive one. And we've also got Rachel Barham from the Federation of Small Businesses, and Rachel is going to do a presentation towards the end about the benefits of being an FSB member and many other things. So I'd like to thank them both for joining us today. We have had quite a few registrations, but we're going to start shortly. Other people may join us as we go along. So I will now shortly hand over to Steve. What I would also like to say is that this meeting is being recorded. We did send this out on the reminder as well. So it may end up on one of our other platforms, possibly on LinkedIn, possibly on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want any recognition, then you should keep your screen blank and remove any other distinguishing features. If you're really concerned about this, then please email us, because obviously we want to maintain your safety and security. What we are trying to do is to make our material and content available to as many people as possible and as free as possible. So that's why we are doing it. And we believe all our guests have got good stories to tell as well, so we want to get them out there. Also, you can put your details in the chat, but again, other people may be able to access them. So if you don't want people to access your information for any reason, then you should refrain from doing that. Okay, then without further ado, I will hand over to Steve Arnold, who's the Managing Director of United Technologies. So over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for inviting me, and welcome everyone. Thank you for listening. Just going to do a quick story about my business, a bit of a story of rags to riches. Not quite rags, but we're a company called UTL Group, which stands for United Technologies Limited. And within the group, there are four main companies, but they're all related technologies. We started up, like I said, 20 years ago. I did it with my brother. And over that period, we've grown mainly by acquisition into a multi-million-pound group of companies. So I thought today I'll just give you a brief history on the growth of the company and how we did that. Hopefully might inspire other startups, new businesses. But firstly, I thought I'd just quickly go through the companies we've got, just to give you a bit of an idea of what we do. So the first one is called UTL Document Solutions, and that's a company that supplies and services multifunctional copier, printer, scanners, and related software, such as, I don't know if you've ever used a proximity card or a door entry card to tap into a building. You can also use those on your printers to release print jobs. So that's all that software behind that. And we also do document management software, which is pushing electronic documents around an office. Been very useful in COVID with people working from home. It's become more important these days, being able to do that, because you're not all in the same place. So you need to push those documents and know who's dealt with it. And we do this, we sell the software for that. Next company is called UTL Telecoms Communications. We do supply and support phone systems, basically, and mobile phones. We do broadband lines, and we do all your calls and lines as well, when we have our own billing platform and bill it all ourselves. The third company is UTL Cabling Solutions. We design and install voice and data cabling. So that's all those sockets where you plug your PC into or your phone into the wall, all that backbone that goes behind the walls back to a comms cabinet, and then you patch things into different bits of equipment depending what they are. We put all that infrastructure in. And also as well do Wi-Fi solutions, PA systems and related stuff. Right, the fourth company is UTL Security Solutions. And that one, it's not man guarding, it's CCTV, door entry systems, intruder alarms. We do fire alarms and security lighting. So that's the last one. Now for a bit of history. I've been in the industry of selling photocopiers myself going back about 33 years. I know I don't look it, but it's true. I've been around for a while. Then I was doing that as a self-employed salesman for many years. And then in 1999, I'd had enough of being let down on service. I was selling these machines, put them onto agreements. A company that I worked through was looking after them, doing the servicing, the back office, accounts, etc. And they kept doing a bad job, letting my customers down, not providing good service. And I'd had enough at that time in 1999 of losing customers because of poor service. And I thought, I can do this myself. This is, not too difficult. I'm sure I can do a better job than them. So that's it. I teamed up with my brother. We set up United Technologies. And at the time, we had the view, how are we going to grow this? We thought, well, we can grow and try and take salespeople on and develop it that way. But we decided to go down a different route. We decided that we would grow by acquisition. So what we did, we looked for people who had businesses that had small bases of customers that had recurring revenue that were getting near to retirement. So what I did was I got a list of companies house, found out people that were over the age of 50 that might be looking at retirement, that had a size of business that I thought I could afford. And I wrote to them, just basically wrote to them, asking them if they're interested in their retirement plans, what they got planned, and whether they'd be interested in selling their business to me. And I was quite surprised at the amount of replies I got initially, and we got quite a few. And I sort of built up a bit of a prospect list from that. And then over the years, we've bought companies, probably one every 2 years. So we've done about 10 acquisitions. So what we did, we'd buy a company, take on the base, we'd try and upgrade as much as possible. Once we took on all those photocopiers, we try and upgrade them, and then we started to cross-sell other things. We were selling consumables, software, etc. And after a few years, about 2005, I got into selling telecoms. I'd done it before, years before, I'd sold a bit of telecoms. So we started cross-selling telephone systems to a base of customers that were already happy with us. So we'd got a foot in the door. It's much easier to sell to someone that's already a customer than to get a completely brand new customer. So that went well and carried on. And then eventually that led on to us doing cabling jobs, because we were doing lots of telephone systems at the time. The phone systems needed new cabling, new Cat5, Cat6 cabling. And that led us to having to do cabling jobs. And then we got good at that, and then we suddenly started winning cabling jobs on their own, and that grew as a company in itself. Really, we expanded. We started winning lots of work with mechanical and engineering companies. They started giving us jobs on schools, hospitals, office blocks, and then they started to say, "Can you do as well the CCTV, the door access alarms?" We did. We subbed that work out to someone else. And eventually we were getting so much of that, we set up our own security company doing that as well, and took all the business instead of having to sub it out, which was the last bit of the company, giving us the security side. But over the years, we've bought several telecoms companies, we've bought several security companies, we bought a cabling company. And with each one of those, you gain a load of customers. And with every one of those, when I was gaining those customers, I'd cross-sell my other services. So if I got a telephone system base that I bought, I'd then sell them photocopiers, or sell them data cabling, or sell them security. So a lot of our emphasis has not only been on the acquisition and growing in steps, but is making the most out of your customers and trying to sell more products to the same customers, because like I said earlier, it's easier to sell to someone you've already got a relationship with than get a completely brand new company. That leads me on to sort of a few key factors, really, just a bit of tips. These are onto what might be useful for you. They've been good for me and stead me in good stead over the years. And the first sort of key factor I'd say is when you set up a business, or even if you're expanding the business, is doing a business plan is so important. And we did something slightly different in our business plan. We did our normal cash flow projections and plans of the market, but we also did a 5-year plan of where we wanted to be in 5 years and work backwards. Because if you say, right, I want to be earning X amount of money. If you start with earning, say I want to be earning this amount of money in 5 years' time, for you to be able to take that amount of money, you need to have a company that can pay you that amount. So the company needs to be turning over X amount. For your company to turn over X amount, it needs to be making so much profit. To make that profit, you need to then work out, well, how many sales of my product do I need to do to make that amount of profit? And then you slowly work backwards. And for us, we brought that right down to making telephone calls. So, with us, it's all on ratios. If you make so many telephone calls, you'll get so many appointments a week. If you do so many appointments a week, there's a ratio of conversion of those that will convert into sales. So everything we work down to a mathematical equation, really, at the end of the day. So you could take it all back to maths, unfortunately, which was surprising because I wasn't very good at maths at school, so I don't know how that worked out. But we managed to make a success of that by bringing everything down to mathematical equations, and it worked. So that's the first key factor. Second key factor is you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. So, if you don't have to if you come up with an idea, there's something someone might have done before similar. For us, we weren't the first company to grow by acquisition. I asked other people who'd done it already. And if you ask someone who's been successful, you'll find that they're only too pleased to tell you about it. So I asked several people who gave me their verdicts on how they became successful and how they did their acquisitions. And I just gleaned as much information as I could from them and picked all the best bits that were good for me. And that's how I got my plan together, was just by asking others. So it's, don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just take another idea and develop it. Third key factor is, I'd say, important one is to have something unique. You always need to make something unique to set yourself apart from other people. And it's one thing having something unique, it's the other art is actually marketing and advertising. If you don't say that, if you've got something unique but you don't tell people about it, then they're not going to know. So you've got to get that message over, however that is. For us, it was speaking to people on the phone. These days it's more social media, but in your own marketplace, you should know where you can get out to those people and getting over that unique that makes you better than other people or different to your competitors. I suppose another last key factor I'd say is be versatile. Markets are always changing, people's habits are changing, technology changes all the time. And if you don't move with the markets and move with technology and keep up with it, you'll find you get left behind. So you've always got to make sure that if anything, try and be ahead of the game, see what's coming up, see what's going to be the next thing. And if you jump on it first, you might find that, you're ahead of the game and do better than others in your industry. So that's my final key fact for that. If anyone wants to know more about what we do and how we did it, I'm more than happy to discuss even your own business ideas and help people with that. Or if anyone wants to know about products, obviously, I'm more than happy to discuss that as well. I'm Steve Arnold, United Technologies, the UTL Group. Thanks for listening. And I'm going to pass you all back to Gary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for those interesting tips about how to develop a successful business, because Steve's very modest. UTL is a multi-million-pound turnover group which started from scratch. It was quite a few years ago, but it can be done, and Steve's just told you a lot of the the strategies that he used to achieve that. So thanks for that. Has anybody got any questions for Steve? You can either raise it directly on screen or do the hands up or put it in the chat. I can't see anybody at the moment, but I will give you a chance to come back a bit later if you're thinking of it. For those that have just joined us, my name's Gary Parker. I'm the Managing Director of C&T Associates, and shortly I'm going to do a presentation on funding for businesses and social enterprises, and I will be followed after that by Rachel Barham from the Federation of Small Businesses. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the share screen, and this presentation will last about 25 minutes. And again, what we will be doing as well with this, we will be sending out a summary of this presentation to you. There'll be no charge for that. It will be free. It is a summary, though. If you want the full presentation, which I'm going to do now, it's over 30 slides, but it is a bargain at £12. So you can have the full presentation, and you'll get a number of other offers in an email after this. Here are all of our social media links. You can link in with me on LinkedIn, or again, we've got a YouTube channel now. If you go onto YouTube and search for C&T Associates, there is the link. You will get this on the email later as well. Because we're going to put, we've already got content on there, and we're planning to put more on in future. So if you can help us by subscribing for what is free content, that will help us to help you. So what we'll do now is look at the aims of the presentation, which are quite simple: to enable you to identify sources of advice, grants, loans, and alternative funding, and to be able to identify and access further support if you require it. So again, we've still got CV19 with us, regrettably. There are still some funds around. About half an hour ago, I was notified of another one, which will probably go into the next presentation on this. But they are variable. So the best sources of support for this are the government's website, gov.uk, and there is the link. And of course, Rachel may talk about some of this later, I don't know. The Federation of Small Businesses, you don't have to be a member to go onto their website, and there is a hub that gives information, advice, and guidance. Then some other ones, if you're in South East London, the South East London Chamber of Commerce website is very good. There's a lot of information on that, including some from us at C&T Associates. And finally, the London Business Hub, which is an excellent resource both for people in London and outside London. And there are also some grant funding and other opportunities for support on that. They run a lot of free training, and there's a lot of very good free resources on that. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are some of the programs that the government has introduced related to CV19 in the past year. Some of them ended now, like the bounce back loans, which is probably the best loan program we've had in recent years, and a whole range of other ones which are there, including some from HMRC, time to pay, VAT deferral of self-assessment payments. But of course, they are deferrals. They're not waiving it. They're not writing it off. So you need to be quite careful about some of those. But again, HMRC do have a site. And if you're unsure where to look, go to the government's business coronavirus support finder, and that will give you access to a lot of links. Here's the HMRC's helpline. It is still functioning. They did write off some VAT payments. I don't think they're doing that at the moment, but you need to check if you're interested in that. There are some other deferrals, but if you're looking at that, or you have instigated that, then You need to keep up to date with HMRC. There's the helpline, and of course you can access them online as well. This is another new scheme, which is the Kickstart scheme, which is basically a work experience program of up to 6 months for young people who are currently on universal credit or at risk and at risk of long-term unemployment. Again, there's a number of other government initiatives in the pipeline, I believe, through the Department of Work and Pensions. They've not been introduced fully yet, but there are some in the pipeline, so I will update my presentation when they come online. But on the Kickstart scheme, the government fund payment to the young people concerned, which is 100% of the relevant national minimum wage. This applies to companies only, not to people who are self-employed, although if you're self-employed, you can take on an apprentice. But they also pay the associated employer national insurance contributions and the employer minimum automatic enrolment contribution. So they are offering significant support on that program, and FSB has a role in that. I don't know whether you might want to refer to that later, Rachel, if anybody is interested. So that's Kickstart. Going on to my more regular presentation, as it were, the non-CV19 links. The issue with funding is where do you start, because there isn't really one portal to go to get all the information. Why is that? Because there's information, grants and services at different levels, local level, regional level, national level, even still now some European funding as well around, although obviously that's residual now. So you need to look in different places. I research these, or we here at CNT Associates research these all the time, but they're constantly changing. We have to update these presentations every 2 or 3 weeks. The first one here is one called My Funding Central, and that is a very good site. Some people, it's part pay, part free. It depends how big your organization is, but you can certainly have a look at it. More established and larger companies have to pay. Smaller organizations, especially if you're a non-profit, don't have to, but worth a look. Another excellent one is the Entrepreneur Handbook, which has got a lot of information about business and managing a business anyway. Another good site with grant funding information is the accountancy software firm Sage. They've got a blog called Sage Advice, which gives a lot of information about government grants, and there's the links. And then the final two are the Government Grants Hub. No surprise there, that's all a wide range of government grants online, and you can trawl through that. And another one that I've just mentioned, the London Business Hub, which has got a lot of London-based information and support for organisations and businesses. Here is the National Business Support Line. You can email them as well if you've got a business support issue. In London, it's managed by the Greater London Authority, so it's probably linked into the London Business Hub, which is also supported by the Greater London Authority. There's a phone number and there's a website address there. They may refer you back to local sources of help, but again, that's a very useful portal, and it's open Monday to Friday, 9 AM till 6 PM if you want information about a wide range of issues. Here's some more specific support now. An organisation I do some work and has got a lot of very good resources with is the British Library, particularly around things like intellectual property, which is very important these days. All these services are free, and they run a lot of work, a lot of the presentations online, and when things get back to normal, they run both one-to-one appointments and group events as well. But of course, in the meantime, they'll still be doing that online. And there's also work going on in South London, for example, in many local libraries. I've been working with the group in Lambeth. In fact, I'm online with them next week, I think it is. Again, other ones here are smallbusiness.co.uk, again, another good facility. And they also have a competition to win £5,000 every month. There's a few other there that you can have a look at, because I'm going to talk about one or two of those shortly, including Enterprise Nation. I've already mentioned My Funding Central, but all of those are worth having a look at. This is a bit more about the Entrepreneur's Handbook. In it, there's a comprehensive list of UK business grants to find and apply for the best grants for your business. And you're able to research that, and it does cover the entirety of the UK. But obviously, in some places, there's more grants than others, but they've got over 60 pages of grant funding on that. But I can recommend it anyway as a resource it's a kind of mini Bible on how to run and manage a business. If you're a new business, this is one of the few schemes that can help you financially. It's what's called the New Enterprise Scheme, but you have to be in receipt of benefits, qualify, and receiving job seekers allowance, which does rule a lot of people out, especially if you've got assets over £16,000. But they do provide a business mentor and some business planning and other support, and you can get a weekly allowance worth over £1,200 over 26 weeks, and you can apply for a loan through them as well to help with the cost of starting your business. I've worked with a few people who've been on that scheme, and they do get good support on it. But as I say, you have to be registered for Job Seekers Allowance or Universal Credit to get onto that particular scheme. We've got quite a few women on today, so I'm going to focus on a number of funds to support women-led businesses. I've already mentioned Enterprise Nation. Enterprise Nation are Britain's biggest business support organisation, set up by a woman called Emma Harrison 10 years ago, or over 10 years ago. And they have an event called the Enterprise Nation Female Startup of the Year every year. There's some of the prizes that have been offered previously. And of course, you get a lot of publicity and other support by winning this award. There are a number of other prizes for those who don't get the top spot. So that's well worth having a look at. And Enterprise Nation do provide a lot of excellent resources and meeting opportunities, both online and in person. And you can do that again. Here is another one. This is the Fredericks Foundation. This is a women's loan fund. It was set up to support women-led businesses. You can get a loan of up to £15,000 for startups and follow-on loans up to £35,000 to support growth. However, this is a loan, it's not grant funding. A loan you have to pay back, grant funding you don't. So you need to check these things out. The other thing is you need to check the interest rates, which are variable. Funds like this tend to be at a higher rate of interest, certainly than the bounce back loans, because that was the best one. But they do provide some customized support for women-led businesses. And one of the conditions is that you have a viable business plan and you're being turned down by conventional lenders. So you know, that's a good stop if you have difficulty raising finance from other sources. But the Fredericks Foundation is a charity and a well-established one, and does many other things as well. Here is another one. This is for IT or digital businesses. It's called Girl Geeks UK, and they run a number of programs. They've got one called 500 Women, which is, they put it, is for funding flawless female founders, and a range of other support organisations and initiatives. like the Female Founders Fund, for example, invests in female-led startups in e-commerce platform and web-enabled services. They do invest money into projects, but there are terms and conditions for that, and you have to have a well-developed business plan and demonstrate you're able to achieve targets within it if you get funding. Otherwise, the investors can take over your project. So, but there's some very good initiatives on that. They're well worth checking out. Here's another one. This is run by Innovate UK, and they have a program called Innovation, Women in Innovation, because women are underrepresented in this particular area. And this is a grant, so it's not a loan, it's a grant of up to £50,000 plus bespoke mentoring, coaching and business support. There are a number of other initiatives by Innovate UK, which I will mention in a while. But again, if you're a woman in technology, both of the last two are well worth having a look at. We'll move on now to some national support. This is from the Department of Business, Energy, Innovation and Skills. This is the loan finance guarantee system. There is a new loan where the government are actually backing up to 80% of the loan. The banks underwrite the other 20%. But again, these are all subject to change. If you want the latest information, you should look at that business finance support link there, which is a good one. And you can check other sources of support out on it as well. Then you've got the National Apprenticeship Service, where you can get a grant of up to £1,500, more in some areas, towards taking on an apprentice. Again, you need to check out these sites. And with all of these, terms and conditions apply, as they say. Here are some central and local government links. Probably the best site on there to look at this is the one in the middle, Grants Online. We subscribe to that here at CNT. There is a paywall on it, but also there is a free level on it as well. And that gives a lot of good information about central and local government grants and many others as well. But there's some of the other ones. Governmentfunding.org.uk from the Directory of Social Change is a very good one, but that's got a paywall on it as well. And also with the government contracts, the link at the bottom, that will forward you to another site, and that's got a lot of links to government tenders that are out there and is well worth checking out because there's an awful lot of them. The government, of course, is the biggest spender or procurer of services from the private sector, and it's certainly been spending a lot of money in the past year. So a lot of that information is on there. Here are some regional support links. I'll not go through all of them. I'm going to mention the London Business Hub again shortly, but here are a couple of other ones. East London Business Place. Some of you might be familiar with this. This was set up about 20 years ago, mainly to get businesses into contractual opportunities at Canary Wharf, but they have expanded across East and South East London, and there's many other opportunities well worth having a look on their site. And another one is Newable, that used to be called Greater London Enterprise, and GLE was around for many, many years. I used to do some work for them a long time ago. And they provide grant funding, advice and support. And they also provide investment in tech businesses as well. So again, all of those are worth checking out if you want further information. This is a bit more about the London Business Hub. It's got quite a wide range of information on it. It was set up by the Mayor of London 2 years ago. There are often funding opportunities on. They're usually short-term ones though, so if there's none on at the moment, there will be soon, but they don't leave these up for long periods, unlike some funders do. They're time limited, I suspect, because the demand is so great for them. but I would advise you to register with them because there's a lot of other very useful information on it. And here, this is a recent grant. This finished at the beginning of April. It's a fund called the Resilience Fund. And you can get grants of up to £50,000. This Resilience Fund is ongoing. They've had at least 2 rounds in the past year, so I suspect there will be further rounds in due course. What the Resilience Fund is all about is about supporting London's community of small businesses and community organisations in adapting, diversifying and delivering services in new ways. And focusing on a number of areas, although they are quite wide-ranging around London's major stresses, from inequality and food insecurity to poor health and well-being, but many other things as well. So that is worth checking out. I'm now going to move on and talk to you a bit more about crowdfunding. There are quite a lot of crowdfunding sites out there. So here's a few of them. Probably the biggest one in the UK is crowdfunder.co.uk. There are other ones, for example, like Crowdcube, which is owned by the Virgin Group, and that's a kind of Dragon's Den investment. People will invest in a business or project, and if it takes off, they've got to share in it. If they haven't, their money's at risk, so it's risk capital. Crowdfunder is slightly different in that people pledge money towards a business or project. The platform will take between 4 and 9% of what you raise. You don't have to pay upfront, and you have to put there's templates for all these on many of these platforms. You have to put information about your project and make a short video about it. They encourage you to do that. The key to this is promoting it, though. You need to promote it yourself through your own social media and any other partnership or other links that you've got. You can also offer people rewards as well, large or small, for pledging money towards your projects. So well worth checking out. This is a bit more about crowdfunder.co.uk, because this is an offer that's on right now. What they're saying, we have a pot of additional funding from a selection of national and regional partners, which, depending on what your business or project is doing, may be able to help you raise more funds. So that is well worth looking at, because what they're saying basically is if you can raise a certain amount by crowdfunding, you can either get other match funding on top of that or get additional funding from another agency, subject to where you're located and the demand for it. But that is certainly worth checking out, and I added this a few days ago, so that's well worth a look at. Moving on now to charitable and trust funding. Again, there are 10,000 charitable trusts in the UK which give out over £100,000 a year, and many, many smaller ones that give less than that. I mean, charities' net worth in the UK, and this is a few years old, so I suspect it's probably gone up towards 70 billion now. There's 63 there. That's significant. And if you add mutuals, that's organisations like the Co-op and others, and other social enterprises, that's about another 30 billion or so on the top. So you're talking about 100 billion. That's the assets of the non-profit making sector in Britain, which that is significant. There are many ways to get information on this, but 3 good sources of information are this site called charityexcellence.co.uk, which is a free one. And then you've got Grants Online. I'd already mentioned that. There is a free level, and then there's a pay wall on that. And then the final one, trustfunding.org.uk, is another very good site, but that's totally a paywall. You get some free access. So if you don't want to pay, the other 2 are a much better bet. And charities non-profit making organisations fund a wide range of things. This is Britain's biggest charitable trust funder, the Wellcome Trust, which is the arm of the Wellcome Foundation, which is a big drug company. And they give out over £700 million a year. That's a lot of money. It's 770 million to be precise, and that's every year. And of course, they're heavily involved in vaccine research and support. So I suspect they're not going to be short of resources. They have a number of funding programs, and the grants range from £5,000 to £3 million. It's also one of the few funders around that will fund both individuals, sole traders, businesses, and charities and non-profit making organisations. There's very few that will fund all of those, particularly sole traders. What's it all about? It's about health-related research and science, but this can be developed, supported through many areas. This one fund here is called the Public Engagement Fund, which is about engaging the public with health-related research and science. And the grants are up to £3 million, but there's 14 or 15 other programs on that site. So if you're interested in that area, it's well worth a look at. And so that's Britain's biggest charitable trust funder, and all of that money is still there and will be available. Bit more about some other central and local government funders here as well. Again, I've mentioned some of these already, so I'm not going through them again. Governmentfunding.org.uk is a good site, and My Funding Central is also a very good one too, and worth a look at. I mentioned this a bit earlier because we're getting towards the end now. This is a new organisation called UK Research and Innovation, and they offer funding and support across all academic disciplines and industrial areas. I won't go into a lot of detail about this, but here's some of the things that they are funding, and you can get digital support and grant funding support in a number of areas, including developing people and skills, international work, infrastructure, that's transport, roads, etc., research culture, impact, that's social impact, the social impact of programs and projects, investing across the UK, public engagement, tackling COVID-19, of course, responding to climate change, and then another interesting strand called 101 Jobs That Change the World. I won't go into detail about any of these, but that site, Innovate UK, which funds digital support, is now part of that group, but there's lots of other funding opportunities on that site. It's a new site and it's well worth having a look at. And here's Innovate UK, which is now part of this. What they do is they fund digital technology, and they support a wide range of organisations and programs. One they've run recently, this finished at the end of May, but there will probably be another round in due course, called the Smart Grant Programme, which attracted grants from £25,000 to £3 million. But there are others on the site at the moment. That was for new technology, but the key to this was proving that it could be monetized and generate whatever your idea is or whatever your business is, that it can be monetized and generate revenue very, very quickly. So again, some interesting programs on that, and that site is well worth having a look at. This is the Government Grants Hub. I mentioned this a bit later. They've got funds for every sector. Those are the main ones. Government grants, grants for non-profit making organisations, individual businesses and service sectors, and grants for the main charitable sectors. So that's another good site. It is updated regularly, so there are some limitations on that, but it is a main, it's quite a good portal for government funds. Here's the British Library I mentioned earlier. They've got a grant. You're an ambitious business owner with plans to scale. They offer £10,000 worth of free support through the Innovating for Growth program. You need to check that online for availability, because these programs, they kind of roll along and then they stop and then they start again. And they've got a whole range of other programs too. And that is the final slide. So just to remind you, that's what's on the screen there is our fundraising training guide. And indeed, we're running a session in 2 weeks' time on how to write a bid. This goes hand in hand with that. This costs £12 as well, and is 20 pages on how to write a bid and a whole host of funding sources. So there you go. There is all of our contact details, as well as so you can link in with me on LinkedIn, etc., and look at our new YouTube channel. So I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm quite happy to take any questions, or you can put them in the chat, or you can email me after we've finished today. So there we go. I can't see anybody immediately that wants to ask any questions. Again, if you want to ask Steve any questions as well, he's still here, and he's put his details in the chat as well. So no, I can't see anybody. I'll just check the screen. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Rachel Barham from the Federation of Small Businesses, who's going to give you a brief presentation about the services that FSB can offer you. So over to you, Rachel.
Brilliant, thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. It might sound silly, but I'm actually going to take you through our website, because it is actually quite detailed, can sometimes be overwhelming. I know there's a couple of members on here, which is great, and there's also a couple of people that I've actually spoken to, and somebody that I need to send an email back to, but hopefully I might actually be able to answer your question whilst I'm on here. But I'm just going to share my screen. For those of you that haven't heard of us, FSB is actually a not-for-profit campaigning group that lobbies on behalf of the UK's self-employed and small business owners. And we basically make sure that government thinks about small businesses and the impact that their decisions can actually have on you. So we've got links into councillors and MPs locally to you, but we also lobby government on, I suppose, the broader scale. So we speak with politicians, prime ministers, chancellors, etc., to make sure that actually you've got a voice and that they're listening. But the only problem you've got is you have to be a member to have a voice, because if you're not, we can't hear and we don't know what you're thinking. But we've grown over the 47 years. We now have about 200,000 members. So we're the UK's largest representation of self-employed and small business owners. And we're the government's most trusted, which is always good. But if you haven't had a look, please at some point take a look at the website. It's FSB, so Foxtrot Sierra Bravo, or Federation Small Businesses.org.uk, and you will find absolutely loads of information. So the landing page that you go onto talks about the campaigns, because we are a campaigning group. So we lobby government around things like taxes, it could be around road infrastructures, it could be broadband speeds, but it can also be things like Brexit, the pandemic and grants. It can be late payments. There is lots and lots that we are talking to them about. And locally, it might be other issues. It might be getting onto the council's tenders and contracts that they've got. It might be help with your landlords, that type of thing. So there's lots of different things, but there's information on there. If some of you are new to setting up business, you can also put your details in and download a pack for starting your own business. And if you're freelancers, there is also a freelancers hub on there as well. To help businesses grow, we do absolutely loads of networking, because all of us in business hate to think of ourselves as salespeople, but it doesn't matter what you do, there is always an element of sales to your business, whether you're teaching, whether you're looking after children, whether it is yoga. It doesn't matter what it is, you need to get your name and your brand out there. Networking is a massive part of that. So if you are interested and you want to go along to any of the networking events, I actually co-host with Gary, one called FSB Bexley. So if you're local to there, feel free to put yourself on and I'll show you how to find it. But you've got the events calendar. There are 3 types of events that we do. Your typical networking where you're meeting other small businesses. We also hold masterclasses where there is an element of learning, which are put on by FSB members, and then a bit of networking as well. And then we also do webinars, which I suppose are your heavier learning sessions. So we've done a lot of those, especially during the pandemic, around insurance, grants, but also getting back on track and the road to recovery. So these types of ones are more of your webinar events. But then you've got your networking. It's always best to use the regions tab, select what is relevant to you. So obviously I'm going to select Greater London because that's where I am and the area that I cover. It's the best place to be, obviously. But you can narrow it down to find the events that are local to you, and then you can book yourself on. So there's lots going on. In London alone, we hold 25 to 30 each month. And then most events across the UK are monthly. Some of them are actually more often, but you can go to any of them. You're not restricted just to the area that you're in. As a member, you can put yourself forward to host events, to host masterclasses, and also be involved in webinars as well. So there's lots of opportunities as members to get involved and get your name out there and the awareness of your business. With FSB, because of the size of us, we have the buying power of a large organisation. So although we're not for profit, although we have a very small employed team within FSB, I myself am self-employed, it doesn't detract from the fact that we are viewed by the larger organisations as a massive business. And of course, they want your business. Now, we don't pass your details over, we don't sell your information on or anything like that. But what we do is contract them into providing you either free services or discounts on the services that they offer. So discounts that you wouldn't get outside of being an FSB member. And these include things like free business legal advice, free business documents, because we all know solicitors charge an absolute fortune. They're worth their weight in gold when something's going wrong, but we always resent paying for it. So we give you free business legal advice, which it doesn't matter what stage you are within your business, whether you're a startup, existing or growing, at some point you will always need some advice. You also will need various different documents. And again, you have to pay for these documents. I've heard of businesses that have downloaded them off Google, but unfortunately, when you do that, you take the risk that they are actually up to date, that they're worth the paper that they're written on. And unfortunately, you only find out they're not when you're maybe in court and you lose your case. So we provide you a bank of documents. There's about 1,200 on there that are the typical documents that you will need as small business owners. So things like contracts, terms and conditions, GDPR policies, privacy policies, tax, VAT, etc., and employment documentation as well. So there's lots there to help you, to save you money, but also give you the peace of mind that you are doing everything right. On this page, it goes through the different types of benefits that come with FSB. So when you actually break these down, within each of them, there are also more benefits. So there's about 20 different benefits that you get as a right of membership. Some of them won't be relevant to your business, which is the point of me. Because what I will do is have a chat with you, understand what you do, and be able to talk about the benefits that are going more realistically that you are going to need. But it doesn't matter if I haven't spoken to you about one of them, you get it anyway. So it's always there in the background. If your business changes, if you have a side hustle or set up a new business, you can also use it for that as well. So this just gives you a bit of an idea of some of them. Feel free to have a look through at any point. Some of them will take you through. There might be a video on there that will give you a bit more information, etc. But they're all the bits that underpin business, because that's what FSB is there for. My one ask though, if you are interested in ever joining FSB, please don't join via the website. Please come to me directly because I'm self-employed. There's also a skills tab on here, and this is great, especially when you're starting up, but also because a lot of businesses have had to change the way that they work. So there's lots of tools on here to upskill yourself so that you don't necessarily have to go out and pay people for these things. So there's information around doing your own taxes. There's also a lot of information around digital marketing, social media, etc. So if you are interested in that, get started with social is a brilliant one to go to, because there's hour-long webinars that teach you a few tips and techniques about using social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, etc. But again, all of this is free. Anything on the website that I'm showing you is free. You don't have to be a member to access these parts. And then, as Gary mentioned as well, we are a national gateway for the Kickstart scheme. Now, unfortunately, you do have to be a limited company. And when I say you have to be a limited company, you basically can't be a self-employed or sole trader to access the Kickstart scheme. But the DWP will do due diligence on you to see whether they think you, I suppose, can manage having a member of staff, which is why they look at limited companies rather than sole traders. But with anything, it's always worth just trying, apply, because these schemes change the criteria and the eligibility all the time. But at the minute, that's the kind of criteria that they follow to look at. Each Kickstart scheme and National Gateway is run slightly differently. So with the Kickstart scheme, you are taking on young adults on a 6-month placement with you, hopefully with the view to taking them on permanently after. But if you do that, the government will actually give you £1,500, depending on which National Gateway you use. So, for example, FSB have gone down the route of partnering with Adecco Working Ventures. And we've done this because a lot of the small businesses that we work with haven't ever employed people before. So they haven't actually got the tools and processes in place to manage, I suppose, the HR aspect of having employees. Adecco Working Ventures will do that for you, but they will also take that £1,500 and they will use that to cover their costs, but also any training that the young adult may be required to do to work alongside you. So be warned, not all of the National Gateways will give you that £1,500. Some will take it, some won't. So you have to do your research. But the choice is yours who you go through. I'm going to show you a slightly different screen. So as you can see at the top on this one here, it says My FSB. This would normally say log in. As a member, you will have login details and you get, I suppose, the back office side. This is the benefits of being a member. And one of the bits that I've already mentioned is the legal hub, which is absolutely amazing because of the support and the information that you get on this part of the portal is the documents. There's about 1,200 documents in here that you can access as members free of charge. And as I mentioned, there are things like contracts, non-disclosure agreements, employment documentation. But I thought I'd just give you a quick view of what it looks like. For those of you that are members, if you haven't ever used it or looked into it and need any support, let me know. But just gives you a rough idea of the sorts of things that you can find in here. I've gone into employment just because it's an obvious one. It's not necessarily relevant to everybody because not everybody wants to employ staff because they can be the best part of a business, but they can also be the most traumatic part, I suppose. And of course, sod's law, I now can't get it to open on here, but hopefully it will do it whilst I'm talking. But membership is personal. So if you do decide you want to become members of FSB, it is you that's actually the member and it covers you and all of your businesses. Membership starts from £177 in the first year, and then it actually goes down because you only pay a registration fee in year one, which is £30. It then goes down to £147. And then if you do have employees, it then goes up based on the number of employees, but it only goes up a little bit because we are not for profit. So we're not there to make money from you. It is just to cover costs and actually put back into supporting small businesses. But as you can see, there's lots of different types of documents that you can find. This is just within the employment side of things. Each section that you go into will have even more information, more types of documents. There will be PDFs, so they will be guides and things that are relevant to all businesses and that aren't changeable. You will also have your legal documents, which will be Word documents, so that you can put your details on, your client or customer details, addresses, etc., and what need to be changed. And then some of them will also have videos and useful links. It does all depend on obviously what the section is that you're looking under. But there's loads of information. We are there to help you because most of us go into business because it is either the industry we've worked in, trained in, that we know, but then at the same time, others, it's their passion. FSB is there to support you with the things outside of that, the things that you maybe didn't train in. So it's all the bits that underpin your business that we can support you, connect you with, save you money, and basically give you peace of mind, let you know that you're not there, you're not doing it on your own. But I'll put my details in the chat. Any further questions, just shout, drop me a message, whatever's easier for you. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, thank you for that, Rachel. A very informative guide to the FSB. As Rachel said, Rachel and I co-host the Bexley Federation of Small Businesses online networking event, which is every third Wednesday of the month. So the next one will be on the 21st of July, and we'll have a speaker who's going to speak about cybersecurity and the good old GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, which are a very important aspect of information management and online services. So I'm sure you will find that of interest. As I said earlier, what we will be doing with this, we'll be sending a summary of the presentation out to you. If you want to buy the full presentation for us, it costs £12. You'll get an email after this today with a number of offers. What we are intending to do is to put this on YouTube in the near future. So watch out for that, but please subscribe to our channel. All the links to it are in the chat at the moment, or if you get an email from us, the red button, hit on the red button, and there's also a direct link to the new YouTube channel itself, because we're planning to put much more of our material on the YouTube channel. Then you can review this at your leisure. We're also using LinkedIn as well to put these presentations on it, so watch out for that, and you can link in with me via LinkedIn. It's just past 3 o'clock now, so I would like to thank again our speakers for today, Steve Arnold, and I'm sure Steve's company has got some very good offers on things like photocopiers and phones. I use them myself, so I can recommend them. And of course, FSB provides a wide range of services to save you money, and it's well worth your subscription to it, because just 1 hour's legal advice per year will pay for that subscription, I can tell you, because you're probably going to pay, apart from the very short introductory offers that solicitors have, about £200 an hour at least. So you can contact us after this today. You can also copy the information in the chat. Everybody's details are in there, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon, and keep in touch with us and link in with us on various platforms. So thank you everybody for attending today, and our next presentation on bid writing for beginners is in 2 weeks' time. Take care everybody, and see you all soon.